Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Youth Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball.
Game7baseball.com. I ruined
it.
it.
No, you did great. I ruined it. I jumped in there. I said it, and you were right.
Well, no, but
I messed it up.
I used to be just the .com,
yeah,
and then our games.
You're right. And I went a little too fast, Mitch. Game7baseball.com. Make sure, as we talked yesterday, we saw we had a good wrap-up show. It was fun. A lot of good stuff happening there. We're going to be out at the Midland Invitational this coming weekend out at Bridgeton. Make sure you come by, check it out. We'll have trivia. We'll have interviews, player interviews. We'll have some highlights. We got all kind of stuff working on the Saturdays. We're trying to make that a little more robust and have some fun. We put out a podcast at the end of the day with all of those interviews and stuff, so we have a good time doing that. And then on Sunday, of course, Championship Sunday.
It looks like we're getting back to baseball weather.
I know, right? Ooh. And you know what was great about Ozzy's, dude? On A, we set everything up. That tree was right there. We had nice shade. It was beautiful.
Oh, I can only imagine. The only thing you're going to get hit with is some helicopters that might come out of the tree.
Yeah, that's about it, you know. And parents were great. It was a lot of fun.
So we opened up in 2019, and basically there was a void in the area. I mean, we saw that there was an opportunity to have a retail store where people could come in and actually touch and feel the tangible object that they're buying.
We're talking about this today in our Youth Baseball Talk. That transition, we were watching this 14U. We were at the AAA level. And, you know, we've talked a lot about the different things, whether, and you know what's funny, Mitch, I'll bring this up. I'm listening to these young men. The catcher, I got his name right here. Hang on. For the Rawlings Tigers, Luke McAtee. I heard him discussing with some of the other prospect players about, and some of his buddies around there from that team, talking about drop 5, -3. You know, why is he swinging a -5? You know, we swing -5s. We can, we don't. I don't. But this kid's 6'2", you know, 185. No, I agree with you there. He can swing a -3. It doesn't matter. He's a big kid. And but then there's that kid that's 5'4", 90 pounds. Yeah. And I understand, where's the -3? Maybe, I don't even know, do they make a 29-ounce -3?
Yes.
So you could maybe go that direction.
The whole thing for me about the -3, -5 is I think they should make, if they do -5, make it a BB core. There's just such a huge difference in the bat itself. Because we've had this argument several times.
That's a great point.
I still think at 14U, if we're preparing for high school, it should be -3. It's just more reps. That's a personal thing, right?
Yeah, I understand.
You've debated the other side, which I understand. I have small kids that are on that 14U team last year for me. that probably shouldn't have been swinging -3s. However, I just feel that when some kid mishits a -5, it can still smoke a pitcher in the face a lot harder, or barrel balls come off a lot differently on those -5. So if it's a thing where -5 still needs to be incorporated there, maybe let's put that as a BB Core requirement. And I don't know that bat companies want to do that,
right?
because
but I think
it's an expense.
And I understand what you're saying, but I think that to me is a very logical thought process, because we are talking about preparing for high school. And I get your point. And you want, at 14U, you got some of these kids on both these teams that are bigger kids. You put a -5, they're still allowed to use a -5, but it is, as you said, the USSSA stamp. Why not put that because you do have the disparity in sizes? There's a couple of kids on both of these teams, even say a Dominic Woods, Coach Kriegmeyer's, Jackson Kriegmeyer, even our top award winner. He's a really good baseball player, but he's not just a huge kid. Hit a bomb. I don't know if he was swinging. I didn't ask him if he was swinging a -5.
You can hear the difference.
He put a good swing on the baseball and hit the ball out, Billy Brown.
Good swings are always going to do
damage.
No matter what, if you're swinging that -3, -5. It just is the preparation side of things for me.
Right.
It's having 50 at-bats versus 10 fall at-bats, live situations. I know you're training for it in the wintertime. I get it. Like, you're building in your high school season to walk into ready to go.
And I think you can, as you get into fall ball, you get some of these kids that aren't growing as much just yet. And as they start getting into high schools, you can start doing that. What do you got to look at there? Have success, feel confident. I believe first and foremost in confidence. And if we're transitioning to high school, are we transitioning these kids into the high school arena first and foremost with confidence?
I understand, and I'm sticking to my guns on this -5, -3 debate.
But I think
I
understand
have
that,
kids
but
that at 14U are still the same size in high school. So
Yeah.
why don't they get to swing the -5 in high school?
You can't. That's just the rule. And I think as
I'm being facetious, but
no, I understand. But I mean, it's a fair question, but you just can't, and that's where those things are. Excuse me. So that's then to the player. What am I doing to do the best I can to get stronger? Are you committed to that? That doesn't mean you have to be in the weight room 24/7 trying to pump iron and all that, but you're doing what you can to get stronger. Do the things that that are necessary. Continue to get smarter. Play with confidence. What is it about the game? What are your strengths? Are we talking to the kids about their strengths? What are your weaknesses? Are you developing your strengths and continuing to grow out of your weaknesses? I think these are the things, and I see this with teams here and there, but not across the board. And I think that's what 14U should be about, is that development. I saw a lot, Coach Post. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Putting the bunt on. So was Coach Kriegmeyer. I made mention of that in the game because, as you and I have discussed, we're going to go watch high school baseball, and we're going to see these coaches putting bunts on. And I was like, I love that. Coach Post did it on numerous occasions. Did the kids always execute? No, but I love the thought process.
Being able to be outside of the coaching box now and being on air with you guys has just shown that what is still relevant as the game progresses and your age level. You're seeing it in high school. They're bunting and running. They're stealing. They're hitting and runs, hit and runs. They're running bunts. All these different plays are happening in the high school. A little bit of first and third trickery. The wheel play. All these things are happening in the high school levels and beyond. Mm-hmm. You're starting to see a little bit more sacrifice play running the bases in the big leagues because of the rule changes. You're seeing it in college. The execution needs to start changing. I don't know that at 9 years old that we want to bunt a lot. I'm still kind of up in the air with whether or not that should be execute it every single game 3 or 4 times. I don't know, but they need to start learning, because when they get 13, 14 years old and they go to some of these high schools like your Francis Howells, your Fords and Malts, West, Howell Central, I'm only speaking on the GACs, because they bunt a ton and everybody in the park knows they do this and they still can't stop them from doing it. And so we need to practice bunt defense. It's boring. We have to get through it, and we need to get bunts down. And I love that at 14 years old, these are 2 coaches that have kids in high school or have experiences in it that are literally using their experiences to coach these young people. And I love that piece, because that's what my goal is what I see deficiencies in high school gameplay. I want to try to teach my players the same. And doesn't always mean they're going to make the high school team, but
preparing them. That's what we're talking about, that transition from youth baseball to high school baseball, and how are we preparing these kids? And I think that's a great point. At 9U, even at 10U, you do that in practice. You do it in the cage. And then if you've got the kids, though, you could start, I think, at 10U, but you got to be careful, because even some of these 9-year-old kids, do you have a kid that can handle a bat? Not necessarily to square around and put a bunt down without breaking a finger, because they put the
they go on a sweet spot. They're like holding it like it's oh man. I've seen some grown kids do this, so I know that it can happen at 9-year-old. I've watched an 18-year-old kid asked to bunt, and I watched him bunt, and I'm like just watching his hand and trying to figure out how he had space about this much to make a mistake, and he got the bunt down without hitting his hand. But in my mind, I'm just thinking, there goes all of his fingers.
Right.
And he pitched too, and it's like, man, like, where did we go wrong in teaching the bunt? But it's just it's the game has changed. At least at the highest level, we don't see the bunt anymore. When they took the pitchers out, you don't see the sack bunt anymore. You saw the DH levels and all of the hitting happening. And your minor leagues have the DHs, your colleges have the DH. You just see a lot of desire to hit baseballs a mile. I think it's tough, because we always talk about, when we're talking about youth baseball and the coaching of it, we get the trickle down from the, it's major, hit bombs, elevate, celebrate, How about a line drive for me, bro? That was a walk-off. That ball was smoked. It hit the fence, scored 2 runs, walked it off. Didn't have to, whew. Just barrel, right?
I'm just saying, barrel it. Barrel the baseball.
Barrels. But you know what's interesting, though, is when you watch a whole season of big leagues and then you get into the playoffs, the game changes.
Well, and this was going to my point to this, Mitch, is the rule changes, to me, like them or dislike them. And there's certain things I dislike about it, but it's changing the mentality of the game, the thinking of the game. And I think that was what everything was just about hitting home runs. Home run, home run, home run. Man, that guy's hitting home runs. Yeah, but he struck out 200 times and hitting 230. Fantastic. Well, but he's got 97 RBIs and 30 home runs.
Well, the game went from being television to being short clips on social media. And so kids love YouTube. And what's the one thing you see?
Home runs. That's it.
And so the fans cheer for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, of course, we want to be that, because we want to be appreciated for our skill set.
And I love bombs. That's great. Fantastic.
But when you need a bunt, you got to get the bunt down. That's what I was referring to in the big leagues and college baseball, is that all year long in conference play or Wednesday games, kids are trying to swing. They're not. Yeah. Coaches aren't really calling for the bunts, but once you get into the conference tournament or once you get into the playoffs in the big leagues, all of a sudden you start seeing guys hit the opposite field. You see bunts get down. You're seeing different game plays because they know the games are going to be closer because of the pitching or whatever it is. And so again, it goes from this whole 162 games of trying to hit big flies and maybe trying to hit homers instead of giving yourself up, which is just the approach of the game. Have
productive outs, getting productive outs. We saw this past weekend.
I got Bixby all over here.
Goldschmidt hit 3 bombs in a game. That doesn't happen, but like once a year. I mean, right?
Well, I think it's less than once a year. But what did he do the next day? He struck out 3 times, by the way. Just
go.
saying.
And then I'm
Not that he's
watching
bad.
Dodgers and Padres. Mookie Betts.
Oh man, you talking?
He got a 3-1 count against Hader, which is pretty unheard of, and got that because Hader had to get in with a fastball, and Mookie's hands are good enough. And when they were talking to Mookie after the game, that was Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday Night Baseball, ESPN.
They were talking to him after. He goes, he said, he's not even thinking home run. Mookie's just trying to get his hands through the zone to get a good swing on it. He goes, I know he's got to come at me. And he said, he's got great stuff. And he says, so he's sitting on a fastball. And Mookie's hands are good enough, even with Hader at 98, So when you do that, the opportunity, it was more of a line drive out of the ball.
Oh, man.
He hit it hard.
And I love how baseball's played because he had made that mistake early in the game on defense.
Yeah.
He was not good offensively for that game up until that point.
Yep.
And nobody remembers the play
No.
because obviously that's baseball though. You have to love to hate it. And the one thing I will say that
But let me add this real quick. He wasn't trying to hit a home run.
he wasn't.
He was just trying to put a good swing on the baseball.
And Hader, is providing. He had to get the barrel out because of the way he slings it and that arm action and all that. And that's But when you hear a guy talk about just wanting to do that, things happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's just trying to put a good swing on a ball. He might hit 107 miles an hour into the ground. And so baseball is weird. But to listen to that conversation, I think that's great that ESPN does that.
Yes.
They mic'd him up, and then
Yes.
after the game, he got to talk about it. And so
Yeah.
you're hearing the best of the best at that level talk about exactly what you just said.
Exactly. Quit trying to hit a home
Easy.
run.
Keep it simple. I got to get it to the next guy. Because the next guy's Freddie Freeman.
And exactly. And Mookie Betts is that kind of guy. He is that kind of player. He is a team guy.
Yeah, and he had bad at bats early on. He struggled.
Yeah.
Hitting against Musgrove started.
Right. And the other thing we were talking with Billy Brown, the tournament outstanding player, hit the home run. What were you? I said, was it a fastball? He goes, oh no. He says and this was his first at bat. He'd seen one at bat, and he walked up there understanding he had thrown all off speed. And he said he was trying to get that curveball going, and he said, so I was sitting on a curveball. He said, I got it, and I hit it out.
That's a game plan and approach. That's intelligence. That's IQ.
He's on deck.
I love
He's
hearing
on deck watching what's going on. So when he steps in the box, he's prepared for what that pitcher. And that's early in the game, Mitch. I mean, he was the second batter of the bottom of the first inning. And I don't know if people got that from this young man, but that's a great. And that's preparation for high school because you got to be that kind of player.
Yeah. I watch enough kids in high school that have no idea what an approach is.
Right.
And for a 14-year-old to walk up there being down 2-0 and say, okay, what do I got to do here? Well, this is what I've seen. Here I'm going to do it. I love that piece. I had a guy ask me one time, he goes, how in the world were you sitting first pitch slider and you did what you did? And I go, well, I watched you throw your 8 pitches in warm-ups and you could not throw your fastball for a strike. The only thing you could throw for a strike was your slider. So I went up and guessed. And Ted Williams talked about it, that he was a guess hitter, and he said, just don't guess wrong, because when you do, you look like a fool, and that happens. But I will take my chances if my approach sticks, if I stick to my game plan, to my approach. That's what I love that he's doing here. When we had the young man from Kirkwood that hit the ball out, he just wanted to put a good swing on a ball, remember? And what happened? Yeah. He parked one and then hit one off the fence. And they're just hearing the game plans and approaches, you figure out why he's going to the University of Memphis.
And then when you see this at 9U, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, even up to 11, probably you're going to get some that will get it early.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're probably not. But you keep preaching. You talk about approach. What are we doing? And teaching the kids, it's about that coaching level that talks about, hey, because most of the time the kids in the dugout at 9, 10, 11 are talking about what flavor bubble gum they're chewing. Those are my seeds.
Yeah,
Hey,
my mom got me those. I'm telling my mom.
You're drinking my Gatorade.
Oh, man, we don't want to do that.
And we understand that. So it's still a matter, though. They are listening. That doesn't always mean they're apt to, but it's that process. And those processes, and you will always, the talent will filter up. And there'll be kids that will play for just the sake of playing in high school and this and that. And then there are those kids that take the next leap and the next step. And that's the way the game filters through the talent level. And it's okay, but teach them all the same things. And it's up to the player at that point to take the information and apply it. And if you're teaching at 9U the application, I don't care if people, they're not listening anyway. Yes, they are. They are listening. That doesn't necessarily mean they know exactly how to apply things. My first expression as a coach was soccer, because I grew up playing soccer. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed coaching it. And my first experience was a bunch of 5-year-olds. We practiced. We set goals. We understood this is the structure. I taught them a structure of how to play the game. All practice. And get in the game and you have the beehive, right? Understand it, whatnot. It's about second to the last game. I think we played 12 games, and it started. You saw certain things here and there and there and here and whatnot. And then that second game, there was things that clicked, and you started seeing the wings and the center fielder work passes and work from the outside in, and some of the things we'd discussed in structure. And all of a sudden, 5 years old. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen all the time, but you saw pieces and you saw certain things of structure and how to play the game being applied in a game, because that's what we did. That's how it is. This is what coach wants. They're listening. We have to be patient. We have to be consistent to bring about the success that we're looking for long term.
There's one thing that you didn't mention in there, which is at no point were you ever considering how important people think the win is at certain ages. And I it's weird for me to hear this. It's a nice story, right?
Yeah.
But at no point did you talk about that you were doing these things for wins, and the process, that 10th game or 11th game of the year. It took 10 weeks if you get to play one, I'm assuming one game a week because they're young. Yeah. It took 10 weeks for them to have a glimpse of something. And then, and that's the things that I think continue to make us go back to coaching, is that you work so hard and you lose so much early on, and then all of a sudden one day everything clicks, and then the team's just out there self-sufficient. Right. And it's going through the coach going out there and again, I am a big teaching in the moment guy, for better or for worse. I don't know if it's always great because we talk about confidence, and you don't always want a coach telling you did something wrong, and I don't do it that way. I just try to help through knowledge of the situation. But all of a sudden, when I you hear me all the time talking about pointing to fly balls to catchers. How many times did we see that ball get dropped this year? But the one kid that points to the ball and the catcher makes the play, all of a sudden you feel good,
right?
And it's like,
there it is, fellas.
There it is, and that's why we do these things, and that's
the win.
That's the win, because I listen. There was a lot of nice trophies given out this weekend, cool rings, cool chains, cool hats, but at the end of the day, that only matters for really the organization, so that they can keep recruiting people. You don't go out there to lose.
Nobody
but
does.
The byproduct of how you practice and prep and the process is how you win games. You don't just run all over the place because they're 9 years old and you could take advantage of weak arms, because that doesn't happen when you get older.
That's correct.
Right? And so baseball,
it's
baseball.
Teach the game. And we talk about this a lot. Winning is about your attitude in playing the game, how you play the game. Results are never guaranteed. Well, we're winning. Are you?
Yeah, what are you winning?
I mean, come on. And I appreciate the fact that the kids, it's nice at the end of it, but sometimes there's just a little bit more talent on this squad, and they make less mistakes. And there you go. And so fine, that's fine. I love giving out. I'm not a participation trophy kind of guy. I don't believe in that nonsense. I believe you do play to those things. But understand at these age levels, if when you get there, treat it as that. Hey guys, our attitude of winning should be, you worked very hard, you did the right things this weekend, and this is the result of that. It doesn't always happen, so you have to make sure you continue to do the things that made you successful this weekend. Understand the attitude that brings you to this place and the opportunity that it gave you. Say those things. Keep talking about those things. That's what we need to say to our young players.
Yeah, we don't need to spend 15 minutes after a game talking about stuff that happened in the first, second inning, or early on in the day, because I don't think kids have enough attention to remember that stuff. And I'm not being mean by any means, but having the post-game conversation, they're already going to have it in the
I'm
ride home.
going to say this right out flat. I think it's the most useless thing in youth sports, even in high school sports, is the walk down the first base line, and especially after a loss. You know what? Even after a win, I think it's that. Get a break, go home. You want to sit and have a meeting with your club before the next game. You have more attention from those kids than you will at the end of a game when they're hyped up if they won, if they are down if they've lost. You're losing, as you said, the attention, and especially at 9, 10, 11, and 12, those kids, they're worried about the snow cone and where we're going to go eat. Mom and dad said we're going to get to go to the pizza street or wherever. That's
the best though, isn't it? Like, you're going in. When I walk into the circle, I talk to the coaches, ask their opinions. We walk to the circle. We have a 30-second conversation about the game. Then the next one is, what are we doing next? Where we got to go? Their directions.
Yeah, if you're
in a game,
that,
like you win, right? And you got a tournament game. You need to know what you're playing next.
So that I understand. Hey guys, be here at this time, and I want you to be here 15 minutes. I want you to be here 15 minutes early because we're going to talk about a couple things. You can do that. And I think that you gain the attention because they've come there to, and if a kid's attention's not there, then you know that he's not applying himself. And that's where you understand. We've talked about this. Mm-hmm. And that's where you start to see those things. But it's my thought process. I know there are coaches that will disagree with me, and that's okay. But don't be hating me because I think it's the useless thing. I just think those kids, either way, there's not a lot of attention. You can say great job and move on. You can say, hey guys, get your heads up. We'll talk. Let's get back here. We got this game. Or tomorrow at practice, we'll talk about we'll see you tomorrow at practice and we'll talk.
The whole focus has changed when you get from. You talked about ice creams and snow cones.
Absolutely.
That changes from driving and girlfriends when you're a senior in high school, or college. And so everything changes. You don't need to spend a half hour. Now, I understand some teams condition after wins and losses.
And that's fine. I have no problem. That's whatever they choose to do.
I did. Win or loss, we always conditioned after every practice, or after every game, every practice. So
a few sprints here and there, stuff like that. Yeah.
It is what it is. Run down there, get it done, and be good. And so I do believe there's a timing for it.
Yeah,
but your conversation about the next day or next practice, I love that piece.
Yeah.
Right before the next game or something, you don't want to be a confidence, drain. But I'm on the same page as you are.
And you can approach it positively. All right, guys, what do we need to do to de-escalate our errors? What is our focus? These are our focus. Focus on the points that we're building on. What are our goals? And you made mention of that with Justin Rogers. Remember, he had their goals in there. We want to hit this. And you set goals to orient to work to minimize mistakes. And I think that's great. And you set the kid's mind in a positive situation. I
Yeah,
thought it
because
was
all you
great.
got to do is go up to that board and go, just like that one. That one's checked off. That mark's checked off. And
I thought it was a really fantastic, and that's the way he chooses to do it. There's coaches that maybe do it a different way, but I think those are the things that make coaching. And
know your
to
ball
his
club.
credit, they're having success.
Yeah, know your ball club too,
Yeah.
because that might motivate them. Where
Absolutely.
Verbally you do it, they might forget by the third inning, but if they have a chance to come in and see that every inning because it's on a board, they can stay focused on that information.
And I want to shout this out. And I didn't do this, and I needed to. I got to do that again. Ryan McDonald, kid we saw Friday on the GAC Classic. The game it was after we did the Friday Night Lights. He pitched a game that next week, no hitter.
I think he no-hit Timberland.
Yes, he did. I think it was Timberland. You're right.
Yeah, he's a dude, and then he hit well
Wow.
against them.
So that's impressive. I'm just saying. And that's the thing. You got to have dudes. Talent is the criteria. Everybody should understand that. Talent is the criteria, especially the older and the higher you go. Talent's the criteria.
And talent doesn't always necessarily mean like the physical body. You have to be physical, right? You have to be able to run and do those things.
But can you get your body to the peak of your ability?
You don't have to be a 6'1", 180-pound shortstop to be the best shortstop out there.
Agreed.
You can be small. You just have to know how to make up for. So talent comes between the ears, and you have to have physical tools.
Sure.
You can't play blind. You have to have eyes. That's still a real thing. But again, 6 foot, chiseled. We know that kid's a dude, but you could be a very good shortstop, looking
I agree,
scrawny
Mitch.
and lanky.
I agree.
I mean, I was a big.
I was
kid.
scrawny and lanky.
I was the opposite end of the chiseled guy.
Because my senior year, dude, I grew after I was 5'11", 160 pounds or 150 pounds soaking wet.
I think I was 150 pounds in the 7th grade.
So I get that. I get that. It's
I
what it
lost
is.
you one year. I had lost so much weight. I literally lost how much you graduated at. Not that much weight.
Good stuff, bro.
That's a fun talk.
Yeah, that was good.
I like talking about the transition to high school because I have experience doing the both, coaching in high school, being involved in youth sports as player development, and the sole goal is from 9, 10, 11 years old to be prepared for high school or middle school level play, and then middle school level play for high school level play.
Absolutely.
After that, you get to high school, those decisions are up to you if you want to continue beyond, because you have to work extremely hard to be one of the 10,000 athletes that get to play college baseball.
There you go. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. I want everybody to take a moment. If you haven't been here, subscribe. Hit that dinger next to it, because that's what we do around here.
We hit dingers.
And that will get you, once you get that dinger, you get your notifications for all the updates. We get to listen to us talk some more baseball. And we have guests. We're bringing guests on. Right now we're in baseball season, so we don't have as many guests. But we're out at the ballpark. We're doing a lot of things. We got great content. So please subscribe while you're here. We appreciate it very much. Our live streaming games we're going to have Sunday. It's a lot of fun. And appreciate this guy to my right stepping in and chatting it up.
We need to make sure they check the replay of CBC and Jackson.
Oh yeah. Watch that game if you haven't. If you didn't get a chance to watch CBC versus Jackson. It's a great game. So make sure you're up to speed on everything. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters,
Hit them where they ain't.
that's good advice. We'll see y'all next time.